In the city of Toronto, in a single month at the start of this year, just 85 new condos found a buyer. 85. In a metro area of nearly 7 million people. A few years ago, that number would have been in the thousands. That's not a slowdown. That's a market that has quietly stopped breathing. Sales of new condos in the Toronto area have fallen 95% from their peak, the weakest stretch in about 34 years. But this isn't really a story about a number. It's a story about the people who bet everything on that number never coming down. The nurse who bought a unit off a glossy floor plan. The couple who handed over their life savings for a condo that doesn't exist yet. The retiree quietly bleeding money every single month in a place they can't sell. Today I'm going to show you how the safest bet in Canada turned into a trap, and why the people who built this market are the ones who walked away first. Let's get into it. So let's start where it actually hurts. Not with the market, with a person. Her name is a stranger's, but her story is now thousands of people's. A woman named Ami went on camera with CTV and described the moment she realized what was happening. Here were her words. "I never imagined in my worst nightmares that my life savings could vanish like this." She bought a pre-construction condo for $650,000. By the time it came to close, it was appraised at $500,000. That gap, $150,000, is money she has to find, somehow, or lose her entire down payment. And here's the thing you need to understand. She did everything she was told to do. She saved. She put 20% down. She bought property in Toronto. The one thing everyone swore only ever goes up. Let me explain how the trap actually works, because it's simpler and crueler than most people realize. When you buy pre-construction, you sign a contract today and close years later, when the building is finished. You're betting the condo will be worth more by then. For 20 years, that BET paid off every time. So people stopped thinking of it as a bet at all. Then prices stopped going up. And when the building was finally ready, the bank sent an appraiser, and the appraiser said, "This condo isn't worth what you agreed to pay." The bank will only lend against today's lower value. So the buyer has to cover the difference in cash on closing day, or walk away and lose everything they'd already put in. This is playing out in real time, in public, on forums where ordinary Canadians are quietly panicking. One person on Reddit's personal finance community wrote about an investment condo they bought in downtown Toronto for $780,000. It's now worth around $550,000. They asked a simple question that hundreds of others were asking too. Do I sell now and take a $200,000 loss? Or do I hang on and bleed money every month hoping it comes back? And that word, bleed, isn't dramatic. It's literal. Because for the investors who are hanging on, renting the unit out doesn't save them. The rent doesn't cover the mortgage, the condo fees, and the property tax. Most of them are losing hundreds of dollars a month just to keep a place they can't afford to sell. The math doesn't math. You own the condo, and it's slowly eating you alive. A well-known Toronto mortgage broker put it bluntly online. He'd been covering this collapse for over a year, watching investor after investor get sued for failing to close. His prediction for how it ends? In his words, super badly. 65,000 people saw that post. Because deep down, a lot of them already knew. But here's what almost nobody said out loud while this market was booming. Most of these condos were never built for people to live in. They were built for people to flip. And when the flippers vanished, there was no one left to sell to. Because the families who actually needed homes were priced out years ago. The whole thing was standing on one leg. And that leg just buckled. So how did an entire city build tens of thousands of homes that nobody who needs a home can buy? For years, Toronto's condo boom ran on a single engine: investors. Roughly 3 out of every 4 new condos in the GTA were bought by people who never intended to live in them. They bought to rent them out or to sell them for more later. That was the model. Build tiny units, sell them to investors, repeat. And it worked as long as 2 things stayed true. Interest rates had to stay low, and prices had to keep climbing. For a decade, both did. Then, almost overnight, both reversed. Borrowing got expensive. Prices flattened, then fell. And suddenly the investor did the math and realized the deal that made sense for 20 years didn't make sense anymore. The Bank of Canada looked at this and described it plainly. The investor model that built this city is broken. And here's the detail that really tells the story. Most of the new condos coming onto the market are tiny units, designed for investors to rent out. But only a fraction of the households actually looking to buy want a shoebox in the sky. So the buildings got built for a customer who no longer exists. Now, to be fair, this wasn't one villain in a boardroom. Developers built what the market was buying. Investors bought what looked like a sure thing. The rules encouraged everyone to keep the party going. Nobody set out to break the market. But the incentives all pointed the same direction, and everyone kept dancing until the music stopped. When you present it that way, the honest answer is that the system produced this outcome, not any single person. And it's worth being fair about one more thing. Lower interest rates over the past year have taken some pressure off. A few first-time buyers are finally finding openings in a softer market. Prices that were untouchable are suddenly negotiable. That's real, and it matters. But for most people trying to get in, and for almost everyone already stuck holding a unit, the numbers still don't work. Because the human cost of all this doesn't land on speculators and spreadsheets. It lands on regular people. Think about who buys a pre-construction condo. It's often a young couple, a new family, someone who scraped together a down payment because it was the cheapest way onto the property ladder. They're the ones now getting letters from developers demanding they close or face a lawsuit. That's not hypothetical. One newspaper investigation found around 130 lawsuits from just 2 developers against buyers who couldn't close. One man is being sued for $860,000. He is not a corporation. He's a guy who signed a contract when everyone said it was the smart thing to do. And here's the part that should stop you cold. If this were just Toronto, just one overheated city coming back to Earth, you could call it a correction and move on. But it's not just Toronto. The same story is now unfolding on the other side of the country. And when you compare Canada to almost anywhere else in the world, we look like the outlier. Head west to Vancouver. Same setup, same unraveling. Condo sales there have fallen sharply too, and the same trapped investor story is playing out. Units bought to rent, rents that don't cover the costs, owners who can't get out. It got serious enough that in British Columbia, the government has stepped in to help absorb unsold inventory that developers simply can't move. Think about what that means. The market got so cold that the public sector had to catch what was falling. 2 of the country's sharpest housing voices, one in Toronto, one in Vancouver, now talk about this as a single national event, not 2 local dips. And the person whose data everyone quotes, the president of the firm that tracks this market most closely, called it the largest correction the condo market has ever seen, now in its 5th year, with a warning that the effects could stretch well into the next decade. Now here's the comparison that puts it in perspective. Look at Australia, a country with an almost identical housing story. An investor-driven boom, then rate hikes. Even in a stress scenario where Australian home prices dropped 30%, roughly 9 in 10 homeowners there would still have more than they owe. Their market bends. Ours in Toronto's pre-construction corner. Snaps. Because so many people bought a unit that didn't exist yet, at a price the market walked away from. And look at the UK. Over there, first-time buyers are entering the market in record numbers, hundreds of thousands of them last year, more than the year before. In Canada, our first-time buyers are locked out, blocked by a stress test and prices that never came down enough. Same era, same interest rates, completely different outcome. One country's young people are getting in. Ours are giving up, or leaving. That's the quiet tragedy underneath all the market data. A whole generation was told the ladder was there. They saved for it. And by the time they reached for the bottom rung, someone had sawn it off. One more Reddit post, because it captures where this ends up for real people. Someone wrote that after 5 years of owning their condo, paying every bill on time, doing everything right, they were down $145,000. Their question wasn't angry. It was just tired. What next? That's the sound this crisis actually makes. Not a crash. A slow, quiet exhaustion. So let me talk to you directly, wherever you're sitting right now. If you're renting, this is the moment the ground shifted. For the first time in years, the pressure to buy right now has come off, and patience might be your biggest advantage. If you're holding a pre-construction unit set to close soon, you already know the number you're afraid of, and you are genuinely not alone. Thousands are in your exact spot. If you're a homeowner, this touches your equity too, even if you never touch the condo market. And if you're a first-time buyer who almost jumped in last year, take a breath. The math finally matters again. Here's the truth. The safest bet in Canada turned out to be a bet after all. And the people who built this market were the first ones out the door. Toronto's condo boom ran on investors. And when they left, there was no one underneath. This isn't over. And I'll be covering exactly where it goes next, every week. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.